You were not born to be consumed by noise, but the world will try. Every day it will whisper in your ear what to think, how to feel, who to be. It will sell you the illusion that you must care about every opinion, every outcome, every glance, every voice that isn't your own. And if you're not careful, if you're not conscious, you'll fall into the trap. You'll care so much that you forget who you are. The truth is brutal, but it must be said. The more you care, the weaker you become. Not because caring is wrong, but because caring about the wrong things is poison to your power. You care about their approval, their applause, their validation. You shape your life around the judgments of people who have done nothing extraordinary, lived nothing courageous, built nothing meaningful. And in doing so, you bury your fire under their fear. Ask yourself why. Why do you let their opinions sit in your chest like truth? Why do you hand them the keys to your emotions, your energy, your focus? They didn't earn that right. You gave it away. Every time you flinch at criticism, you shrink. Every time you hesitate to act because of what they might think, you give away another piece of yourself. And slowly, quietly, you forget that you ever had power at all. But you did. You do. And it begins the moment you stop chasing applause and start listening to your own soul. Because here is the law no one teaches you in school. What you care about will shape what you become. Care about your growth, you will rise. Care about comfort, you will stagnate. Care about being liked, and you will bend until you are unrecognizable. This is not a life of fulfillment. This is not the path of giants. Do you think Edison cared when they laughed at him after 10,000 failures? Do you think Lincoln cared when half the country cursed his name? Do you think Henry Ford cared when the world mocked his vision of an affordable automobile for the common man? No, because caring too much about what doesn't matter is a luxury that the truly great cannot afford. They cared, but only about the right things. Purpose, progress, vision, legacy. Everything else was noise. And when you begin to tune out that noise, something changes inside you. Your posture changes. Your voice sharpens. Your energy shifts. Because suddenly, you are no longer playing defense with your life. You are creating it. You are no longer spending your days editing yourself to make others comfortable. You are spending them sharpening yourself like a blade for something greater. But this path, this way of being, requires sacrifice. You will have to let go of the need to be understood. You will have to stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You will have to release your grip on being seen as nice, agreeable, polished. Because the real you, the one who's fierce, focused, clear, is not here to fit in. That version of you is here to build, to create, to command. You cannot do that if you're still handcuffed to the opinions of strangers or the wounds of the past. The weaker you become is not measured in muscle or volume. It is measured in how easily you are moved by what doesn't serve you. One insult derails your focus for the day. One disagreement and you doubt your mission. One setback and your faith crumbles. But the strong, those who rise above the crowd, they are unmoved. Not because they are numb, but because they have trained themselves to care selectively. They choose where to pour their energy and what to release without a second thought. That is the edge. That is the unseen difference between average and exceptional. See, discipline is not just waking up early. It's not just grinding harder than the next person. It is in this having the emotional clarity to know what is worth your attention and ruthlessly cutting out everything else. And yes, this means caring less. But not less about people, not less about love, not less about excellence, caring less about distraction, caring less about ego, caring less about temporary validation from those who don't even clap when you win. Because you weren't made for temporary victories. You weren't born to get a few likes and disappear. You were born for impact, and impact requires detachment. It requires a kind of stillness inside a refusal to let small waves knock over a big ship. So stop asking, what will they think? Start asking, What does my mission require? Stop wondering, will they like me? Start deciding, will this move me closer to who I must become? That shift will change your life. Because the moment you no longer need to be approved, you become unstoppable. When you care more about your conviction than about being politically correct, socially accepted, emotionally safe, you step into the arena where legends are made, where voices echo beyond time, where names become movements. And that cannot happen if you're still worried about what the crowd says from the stands. Let them cheer, let them boo. You're not here for them. You're here for the truth that was buried inside you the day you were born. And that truth, it doesn't require permission. It requires courage. The courage to say no to the things that feel good but lead nowhere. The courage to be misunderstood, judged, underestimated. The courage to follow your path even if you walk it alone. That is strength. And if you want to be free, truly free, you must be willing to stop caring about everything that weakens your soul. Caring about the wrong things is a form of emotional slavery. Let it go. Burn the script they handed you. Write your own. Because in the end, you will not be remembered for how well you fit in. You will be remembered for how boldly you stood out. If you want to see who's truly in control of their life, watch how they respond to chaos. Do they panic? Do they complain? Do they chase people for validation, like beggars in search of crumbs? Or do they stand still while the storm rages? Because real strength has a quiet rhythm. It doesn't scream. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need applause, it just is. You feel it in the silence, in the discipline, in the precision of someone who's already decided who they are and where they're going and refuses to be pulled off course. But to reach that place, you will need to do something most people never have the courage to do. Detach. Detach from the outcome. Detach from the crowd. Detach from the desire to be liked. This doesn't mean apathy. This doesn't mean isolation. It means mastery. It means seeing clearly what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because their energy is fractured, scattered across 1,000 worries, obligations, and meaningless comparisons. They carry other people's expectations like bricks in a backpack. Then wonder why they're too tired to climb. You want to rise, drop the weight. You want to fly, burn the need to please. That weight you're carrying, those fears, those projections, those insecurities, they were never yours to hold. You inherited them. You absorbed them. But now you must choose to release them. Because your power cannot grow in soil contaminated by doubt. And make no mistake, your power is growing. Every time you stop yourself from reacting emotionally, it grows. Every time you prioritize your vision over their approval, it sharpens. Every time you remain calm while others lose control, it expands. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to perform it. You just need to live it. Understand this: when you truly detach from what weakens you, you enter a new realm of power, a place very few ever reach. In this place, peace is your baseline. Clarity is your compass, and silence becomes your language. People will look at you and wonder how you remain so composed. They'll mistake your detachment for coldness. Let them. They're not used to seeing someone who no longer dances for approval, who no longer bleeds just to keep others comfortable. They're not used to strength that doesn't need validation to stand tall. They will say, "You've changed." They're right. You have changed. You've stopped leaking energy into empty rooms. You've stopped explaining your vision to those too blind to see. You've stopped asking for permission to be powerful. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You don't need everyone to get it. You just need to stay devoted to the fire inside you. That inner fire, that unshakable belief in your mission, is the only thing that will carry you through the storms to come. And there will be storms. Your detachment will be tested. The world will try to pull you back in. You'll hear voices. Don't you care what they think? Why are you so distant? Can't you just be normal? But you're not here to be normal. You are here to build something timeless. a mindset, a life, a legacy, and anything that threatens that clarity must be removed. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You don't need to convince anyone. You just need to act, in silence, with conviction, relentlessly. Because those who are most feared by the world are not the loudest, they are the most disciplined. They are the ones who have trained their minds to care only about what moves them forward. Think of the greats Carnegie, Ford, Disney, Mandela. These were not men who chased applause. These were not men who collapsed when criticized. They were focused, and because of that, they built empires out of ideas. What they all had in common was this: they chose purpose over popularity. And in that choice, they became unshakable. You must do the same. Every day you are given a choice. Do I move toward what strengthens me, or do I chase the opinions that weaken me? Do I live for applause, or do I live for alignment? Do I react, or do I rise? And every day you choose alignment, you become harder to manipulate. Every day you choose silence over defensiveness, you become more dangerous in the best way. Every day you choose to protect your focus like it's sacred. You walk deeper into mastery. Because the most powerful person in any room is not the one who speaks the most. It's the one who could speak, who knows they could destroy, and chooses peace instead. This is the edge. This is the discipline. This is the mindset that makes you untouchable. But here's the truth. Being untouchable doesn't mean being unfeeling. It means feeling deeply and still choosing strength. It means having emotions and not letting them hijack your direction. It means being so devoted to your future that you no longer hand over pieces of your soul to people who won't even remember your name 5 years from now. So stop explaining yourself. Let your results do the talking. Let your discipline speak louder than your words. Let your presence make noise without a sound. Because when you stop caring about everything, you gain the clarity to focus on what matters. And from that clarity, you become a force of nature. You become the one who walks away instead of arguing. You become the one who keeps building while others gossip. You become the one who doesn't flinch when life throws another storm at your feet. Because you trained for this. You burned for this. You gave up the need to be understood for the power to become unstoppable. Let them talk. You're too focused to hear them now. There comes a moment, quiet, rare, unmistakable, when you realize you're not reacting anymore. You're not triggered by the little things. You're not explaining every move. You're not reaching for applause to feel like you're enough. No, something deeper has taken root inside you. A stillness, a sovereignty. You've stopped needing the world to validate what your soul already knows. And in that moment, you're no longer weak. Not because you've hardened, but because you've refined. Because true strength isn't found in force. It's found in the ability to choose what deserves a reaction and what doesn't. And most things don't. Look closely at the people who build empires, not just external ones, but inner empires of peace, clarity, and direction. They aren't distracted by the crowd. They aren't scrolling through opinions, adjusting their self-worth like a stock price. They live by an internal code. They've seen the cost of caring too much about the wrong things, and they've refused to pay it again. They know. The more you care about noise, the further you drift from your signal. You were born with a signal, a frequency that belongs to you and you alone. But when you care too much about being liked, you tune it out. When you care too much about winning every argument, you lose your way. When you care too much about fitting in, you vanish. Greatness doesn't fit in. It rises. And it rises not by caring more, but by caring smarter. This is what nobody teaches you. There's power in letting go. Let go of needing to be understood. Let go of needing to win every battle. Let go of needing closure from people who never had the capacity to hold your truth in the first place. The closure you want isn't coming from them. It comes the moment you stop expecting anything from people not built to carry your vision. And when you finally stop asking for permission, stop defending your path, stop craving their applause, you gain the one thing the world cannot give you: freedom. That freedom doesn't feel like rebellion. It feels like returning to yourself. It feels like remembering who you were before you were taught to doubt it. And once you remember, you begin to see clearly. You see how much energy you wasted overthinking comments that meant nothing. You see how many hours you lost replaying moments that taught you nothing. You see how many opportunities you missed while worrying how you looked chasing them. You see it all, and you stop running in circles. Because you're not a puppet anymore. You're the one pulling the strings. Understand this. Most people never take back that control. They live their entire lives reactive, emotional, distracted, insecure. They confuse intensity for purpose. They confuse noise for relevance. They confuse being seen with being fulfilled. Don't be like most people. Don't waste another decade feeling everything but building nothing. You must protect your mind like it is sacred territory, because it is. Every thought you dwell on is a brick in the house you live in. And if you let every criticism, every social post, every snide remark take up space in your mind, don't be surprised when you can't breathe in your own mental home. You want peace? Start cleaning house. Evict the opinions that don't matter. Evict the doubts that don't serve you. Evict the guilt they handed you for choosing yourself. Let them call it selfish. Let them call it cold. Let them call it whatever they need to in order to feel safe in their smallness. Because the ones who break the mold, the ones who rise above the noise, the ones who live with fire in their lungs and steel in their spine, they will always be misunderstood by the ones who chose comfort. That's not your problem. Your problem is not that you care. It's that you've cared too much for too long about things that were never meant to guide you. You were meant to be led by vision, not fear, by purpose, not applause, by self-respect, not popularity. So ask yourself now, what am I giving my energy to? What ideas, what opinions, what fears have I fed for so long that they now believe they own me? And then ask the harder question, am I willing to let them go to become who I was meant to be? Because becoming that version of you, the focused one, the clear one, the calm one, under pressure, requires one thing above all else: emotional discipline. Not suppression, not avoidance, but mastery. You can feel everything, just don't let it dictate your direction. You can hear their noise, just don't let it become your voice. You can experience doubt, just don't let it rent space in your future. Because emotions are messengers, not masters. Criticism is feedback, not fact. Opinions are reflections, not rules. When you understand that, you reclaim the throne of your own mind. That's what it means to be strong, not perfect, not numb, but anchored. Anchored in values. Anchored in clarity. Anchored in a mission that doesn't shake when others speak. The more you care about your long-term vision, the less time you have for temporary disruptions. The more you care about building a legacy, the less you respond to things that don't echo past the moment. This is how warriors move. This is how visionaries stay sane in a world addicted to noise. And this is how you rise. Not by fighting everything, not by caring more, but by choosing your battles and letting the rest pass like wind through your fingers. Because your time is sacred, your vision is rare, and your energy is the currency that builds the life you dream of. Spend it wisely. You've given too many pieces of yourself away. To opinions, to fear, to people who never even knew your name before they judged your fire. But now you are calling it back. Every ounce of energy that was lost trying to please them. Every breath spent arguing, explaining, defending. Every moment of doubt sown by voices that never mattered. It all comes back. And when it does, something inside you changes for good. You stop rushing to respond. You stop bending to be accepted. You stop waiting to feel ready to begin. You realize no one is coming to give you permission, and you no longer need it. You're done seeking permission to be bold, to be focused, to be deeply, unapologetically intentional with your life. Let them call you distant. Let them call you obsessed. Let them call you too much. Because the ones who change the world are always called something before they're called a legend. When you let go of needing to be liked, you become dangerous. Because now your fuel is not attention, it's alignment. Your strength is not their approval, it's your decision to move with or without it. And when that becomes your foundation, every step you take echoes with authority. It's not noise, it's not desperation, it's not reaction, it's command. You stop explaining your worth. You stop advertising your value. You just move. And when you move with that kind of internal clarity, the world moves with you or gets left behind. Because here's what they won't tell you. The world doesn't respect the one who tries to please it. It respects the one who dares to move without asking first. Think about that. All the people you admire, the ones whose names you whisper when no one's listening, the ones who made history, who broke barriers, who built the impossible. They weren't the most agreeable. They weren't the safest. They weren't the most validated. They were rooted in something bigger, in something that didn't care how many people clapped. They were not driven by applause, they were driven by vision. You need to decide what drives you. Because if you are driven by fear, then every challenge will shake you. If you are driven by praise, then every silence will paralyze you. But if you are driven by something eternal, something deep, personal, immovable, then nothing and no one can stop you. And here's the secret that fire has always been inside you. It's not something you need to find. It's something you need to uncover. Buried under years of caring about the wrong things. Buried under stories they gave you about who you were allowed to be. Buried under layers of performance perfectionism and quiet self-abandonment. But no more. Now you rise. Not with noise, not with rage, but with precision. You stop being pulled and start pulling. You stop explaining and start executing. You stop hoping and start becoming. And when the voices come back, because they will, trying to pull you into old patterns, trying to bait you into arguments, trying to weaken you with doubt, you'll smile, not because it doesn't sting, but because you've already decided who you are. And that decision is no longer up for debate. Not now, not ever again. You don't need to scream. You don't need to prove. You just need to walk forward, quiet, steady, locked in. You don't need them to cheer, because you already believe. And belief, real belief, is louder than any applause. It doesn't waver. It doesn't beg. It doesn't check the room before speaking. It knows. And when you walk in, that knowing, when you breathe in that alignment, the whole world senses it, even if it doesn't understand it. You become unshakable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get clearer. You don't shrink when rejected. You don't tremble under pressure. You don't collapse when the room goes silent, because you are no longer a servant to reaction. You are the architect now, and the architect doesn't ask the audience if the blueprint makes sense. They build anyway. So build. Build with courage. Build with quiet intensity. Build without permission. Because this life, this one precious life, is not a dress rehearsal. There are no do-overs, no replays, no second takes. You have now, so use it. Cut the noise, starve the doubt. Let the wrong people fall away. Let the empty praise pass by untouched. And in that space, begin again. Reclaim your focus, protect your fire, sharpen your mind. Become so intentional, so precise, so aligned, that nothing irrelevant even touches you anymore. Let your discipline speak. Let your silence intimidate. Let your results roar. And remember, the more you care, the weaker you become. But the more you focus, the freer you become. So care deeply, but care about the right things. Your purpose, your growth, your peace, your mission. Let that be your compass, and let everything else burn. There is a rare kind of power that cannot be taught in classrooms, cannot be read in books, cannot be inherited through bloodline or bought with wealth. It is the kind of power that is forged alone, in silence, in discomfort, in the moments when your soul screams for approval and you answer no, not this time. Because every time you choose self-respect over self-betrayal, every time you choose direction over distraction, every time you choose solitude over seeking, you reclaim your throne. And you remember you were not made to live by reaction. You were made to lead, to command, to decide. You were made for fire, not for friction. But here's what they never say out loud. This path will make you lonely, not because there's something wrong with you, but because most people cannot breathe at the altitude you're climbing to. You'll notice it. Conversations will feel shallow. Small talk will make your skin crawl. The need for validation will feel like a chain you've outgrown. Because when you taste the power of inner peace, external noise becomes irrelevant. You no longer crave to be seen. You crave to be effective. You no longer want to impress the crowd. You want to build the mountain. You don't want to be popular. You want to be undeniable. And this clarity is what the world fears most. A person who cannot be moved. A person who operates from purpose, not approval. A person who chooses where their energy goes and guards it with their life. That kind of person is dangerous because they cannot be controlled. You cannot bribe them with status. You cannot shame them with gossip. You cannot manipulate them with rejection. They have risen above the noise. And once you rise, there is no going back. You cannot unsee the truth. You cannot unfeel the shift. You cannot unlearn what happens when you stop caring about weakness and start cultivating strength. From this point on, your path will demand more from you. More solitude, more stillness, more discipline, more detachment from everything that kept you average. You will lose things, comfort, old friends, familiar praise. But what you will gain in return is priceless. Clarity that cuts through chaos. Focus that pierces through noise. Peace that no one can steal. You'll realize you don't need more motivation. You need fewer distractions. You don't need louder affirmations. You need sharper intentions. You don't need their permission. You need your decision. Because the war was never out there, it was always in here, in your mind, in the small, quiet moments when you either rise or remain. And the only thing that ever made you weak was caring too much about things that never mattered. Let that be the line you draw today, right here, right now. A line between who you were and who you must become. Between reacting and ruling. Between pleasing and building. Between approval and power. This is not about being cold, it's about being clear. This is not about feeling nothing, it's about feeling deeply and still choosing to stand tall. Because feelings are part of you, but they are not the captain. You are. You don't suppress your emotions. You discipline them. You direct them. You teach them to serve your purpose, not sabotage it. That's the difference between living by impulse and living with intention. The average person flinches at every comment. You stand still. The average person panics when things don't go their way. You adapt. The average person begs to be seen. You build so boldly they can't ignore you even if they try. This is your calling. Not to fit in. Not to be liked. Not to explain. But to rise so relentlessly that every room you enter adjusts to your frequency. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them whisper. You are not moved by noise. You are moved by mission. And mission doesn't ask for applause. Mission executes. So execute. Execute even when no one is clapping. Even when no one is watching. Even when no one believes yet. Because the more detached you become from the need to be understood, the more unstoppable your execution becomes. You move faster. You think sharper. You feel lighter. And suddenly, everything you were chasing begins to chase you. Not because you begged, not because you performed, but because you became. You became the person who didn't fold when the crowd laughed. You became the person who kept going after the applause stopped. You became the person who chose vision over validation, purpose over popularity, depth over noise. You became the person who cared just enough to lead, but never too much to be led by fear. So now the world will ask, how are you so calm? How are you so consistent? How do you move with such certainty? And your answer will be the same. I stopped caring about everything that didn't make me stronger. Because when you stop caring about what weakens you, You finally become who you were meant to be. Unapologetically focused, unshakably clear, unstoppably free. This is your time. Guard it. Use it. Build something no one else can, because they're still busy trying to be liked. While they seek permission, you will build power. While they post, you will move. While they react, you will rise. This is the edge. This is the calling. This is the moment everything changes. Not because the world gave you a sign, but because you finally stopped asking for one. You already know, so act like it.